All right. Time to dive into something really cool, the IC-7760 transceiver. And judging by the brochure you've got there, you're after some serious radio capabilities. Let's break it down.
What I find really fascinating about this particular transceiver, the IC-7760, is how ICOM is really pushing the boundaries here. It's like they're trying to redefine what flexibility means for a modern transceiver, especially, with all the emphasis on signal clarity.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of flexibility, they make a big deal about this whole separating the control head and the RF deck. Why is that such a big deal? Seems like a kind of unusual design choice at first glance.
Yeah, it might seem a little strange, but trust me, this separation is huge for flexibility. It's a game changer, especially for serious operators. Think about it. You can put that RF deck closer to your antenna, right? Get the cleanest signal possible, while your control head sits nicely on your desk. No more cable clutter.
So I could be like in my home office sipping my coffee while the real magic is happening over by the antenna.
Exactly. That's the beauty of it. But it gets even better, right? Because they use a LAN connection between the head and the deck. So you can control this thing from anywhere in your house. As long as you've got an Ethernet port, you're good to go. Imagine being able to participate in a contest from your comfy chair. Or, adjust your settings without even leaving your workbench.
That changes everything. No more being tethered to one spot.
Okay, but let's talk audio for a sec. They throw around some pretty high-tech terms in this brochure Digicel, direct sampling.
Yeah.
All in the name of crystal clear audio. But I'll be honest, I'm a little lost on the technical details.
Don't worry, it's not as complicated as it sounds. Imagine trying to have a conversation with someone, like a faint whisper in a room full of people shouting. That's what the IC-7760 is trying to overcome. And it does this by using Digicel to amplify the weak signals you actually want before it filters out the noise.
So instead of just making everything louder, it's intelligently amplifying what I'm actually trying to hear.
Precisely. You got it. So you get amazing sensitivity to pick up those weak signals, but you still have excellent selectivity, which means you can isolate those signals from all the noise. It's a win-win for chasing DX or dealing with interference. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But then there's this whole RF direct sampling thing. Where does that fit into the picture?
Think of it like this: traditional radios. They use this process called analog mixing, but that can introduce some unwanted artifacts, distortion. Like imagine listening to a vinyl record with pops and crackles. Not ideal, right?
Yeah.
But with direct sampling, the signal is immediately converted into the digital domain right after the amplification stage.
So it's like bypassing all those extra steps that might degrade the audio.
Exactly. It's
Fair.
all about minimizing those losses so you get a much purer, much cleaner signal, like listening to a high-fidelity digital recording. You get the full experience, the way the signal was intended to be heard.
So we've got this incredibly flexible design, super clean audio signal path, but there's more, right? This brochure is packed. What else jumped out at you?
Well, what's really impressive to me is ICOM didn't just focus on those big, flashy features. They really thought about all those little things, like take the built-in antenna tuner, for instance. It's surprisingly sophisticated,
Yeah.
especially for a radio in this class.
Yeah. The brochure mentions it can handle up to 200 watts. That's not something you see every day in a built-in tuner. What makes it so special?
Well, it uses a fast mechanical relay system. A lot of radios use the slower L network design for their tuner.
Ah, okay.
This means faster tuning, more precise, which is really important if you're like switching bands a lot or using a variety of antennas.
Yeah, for sure. I'm always fiddling with my tuner when I change bands. It's a pain.
Exactly. And speaking of making life easier, they also highlight this thing called DPD technology.
Right. DPD technology. Sounds kind of intimidating, like something a rocket scientist would come up with.
Yeah. Maybe not rocket science, but definitely cool. DPD stands for digital pre-distortion. And it's all about making sure you have a clean signal, even when you're transmitting at high power.
So it's like it's analyzing my signal before it goes out and like cleaning it up on the fly.
Yeah, essentially. It's pre-correcting for distortion that might happen in the amplifier stage. Think of it like smoothing out the rough edges of your signal before it even leaves the radio.
So it's like a bodyguard for my signal, making sure I sound my best out there on the airwaves.
Exactly. It's all about being a good neighbor,
Yeah.
especially on crowded bands. A cleaner signal from you means less interference for everyone else.
Makes sense. It's not all about the big features like DPD, though. I noticed they've also got some like really thoughtful additions for different kinds of operating style.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like they've got a dedicated FT8 mode preset. If you're into digital modes, that's a lifesaver.
Yeah.
One button press, you're ready to go. No more messing around in the menus.
Oh, that's huge. Especially for someone just getting started with digital modes, that ease of use is so important. What other little hidden gems did you find?
Well, They've also included an SD card slot,
Yeah,
which might seem like a small thing, but
it's those little things.
yeah, it opens up a lot of possibilities. You can store your entire logbook on there, load custom settings, back up your radio's firmware.
It's like having a little digital toolbox right there on the front panel.
Exactly. I think it shows that ICOM was really thinking about the way people actually use their radios. And speaking of thoughtful additions, have you seen this audio scope feature?
Yes, I was actually just about to ask you about that. Seems like a really useful tool, especially for like really fine-tuning your audio for different modes.
It's incredibly useful,
Yeah.
especially for things like SSB, where audio quality is so crucial. You get a visual representation of your voice, so you can see your microphone levels, frequency response, all that good stuff.
It's really amazing how many features they've managed to pack into this thing. But there's one more thing in this brochure that really caught my eye, although I'll admit it's a bit over my head. Something about an IQ signal output.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
You found one of the IC-7760's hidden superpowers.
Okay,
It might seem like a small detail, but
yeah.
it opens up a whole world of possibilities.
All right, so break this down for me. What is an IQ signal output, and why should I even care?
Okay, imagine being able to, capture the raw radio waves coming into your receiver and then feed them directly into your computer.
Okay.
That's essentially what this does.
Yeah.
It gives you the raw I and Q components of the signal. Think of them as like the building blocks of that radio wave. And it sends them right to your computer through a USB connection.
So instead of just hearing the audio from the radio, I'm actually capturing the raw signal data, and I
Yeah.
can mess with that on my computer.
Exactly. It's like,
Yeah.
think of it like listening to a recording of a concert versus having the individual tracks from the mixing board.
Oh, wow, yeah. Okay.
You can use software like HDSDR to visualize the entire radio spectrum. You can do really advanced noise reduction. You can even decode digital signals that your radio might not natively support.
So it's almost like turning this transceiver into a software-defined radio platform.
Kind of. Yeah,
That's pretty wild.
it is. And the possibilities, they're pretty much endless, right?
Yeah.
You can experiment with all this digital signal processing. You can analyze signals in ways you couldn't before. You can even write your own decoding software.
Wow.
This one feature really future-proofs the IC-7760 because as new digital modes come out, new technologies, you're ready.
I had no idea. This is more than just a transceiver at this point. It's like a whole laboratory for like radio exploration.
I think that's a great way to put it. I think it's clear that ICOM designed this thing to appeal to a really wide range of people. From your casual hobbyist all the way to the folks who really like to push the limits and see what's possible.
I have to say, this has been an incredible deep dive. We've gone from like the design basics to uncovering some really, really remarkable capabilities with this IC-7760. So if you're thinking about getting one, I highly recommend digging into all these features. Experiment, explore, and most importantly, have fun out there in the airwaves. That's what it's all about.